Alright, video response, 3 questions kind of thing to a blog post by Hawariy Al Maari. Anyway, I was just thinking in the context. He answered one of my questions, I thought, rather poorly. The last one, so I guess we'll do that and then we'll go to his questions. Yeah, I think that's probably the correct order of things. So anyway, the inheritance question, just kind of the worst kind of bullshit answer. Just part of the evolutionary system, just part of reality, of rules created by the selfish genes. Clearly, though, you know, the societies have managed to do it different ways, and it doesn't have to be the way it is. It's just silly to say. You know, inheritance, I mean, even in nature, it's nothing like what we've created. Hierarchies are seldom false. Yes, everyone should start with the same opportunities, but they won't, because we all differ in looks, intelligence, personality, etc. That's not really the argument. There's tons of stuff we can fix. So again, it's just this complete, you know, evasion of the subject. Like somehow all these subjects are the same. Whether you're good looking or not is the same subject as whether you should inherit $10 billion. It's not anywhere close to the same subject. One you can do something about, one you can't really do anything about. We can certainly do more about it than people do. I mean, obviously there's people who have kids when they know they have all kinds of genetic defects. They know everybody in their families died at 65 or something, and they still go ahead and march on like idiots. Nature doesn't make people equal. Well, again, so nature's your authority. So you seem to be able to answer all these other questions without using nature as your authority, and yet this question you just turn into, it's the natural way. So I guess I should just say to you about animal suffering, it's the way nature is. Nature likes to torture animals. It's one of its favorite things to do, is to cause a whole bunch of them to die so it can make little super monsters, you know. That's the whole game it plays. That's the whole thing it's built on. You seem to be capable of understanding how that's worth opposing and rejecting as an ethic, and yet you say this one we should just accept. I mean, you know, it's these kind of bullshit answers. That this is why the world sucks, is because you assholes just can't fucking think straight. I mean, for some reason you're horny for inheritance, and so you do this silly rationalization. Funny thing is that any purely political attempt, well, I don't even know what a purely political attempt to do anything is, so that's just another bullshit line. Where did you even pull that one? Where all of a sudden it's purely political. Attempt to correct this will just end in horror. So he's promising us horror. So if we did anything to moderate how much wealth can be just given for no accomplishment, if we dare to think we should have something like a merit society, oh my God, horror's coming. I mean, fucking bullshit. Ugh, preposterous bullshit. So anyway, on to the questions. Yeah, so I'm going to make another video on that whole subject anyway. I mean, it's the subject of the comment thing of the Bernie Sanders, welfare, immigration, all that kind of crap. You know, I obviously have some, you know, people just make stupid arguments, and they're stupid. Sorry. And so I'm going to point out they're stupid arguments. Alright, question 1. Imagine a world where anti-natalism, ethalism, world the government reigned. That means, okay, so democratically most people get it, and they figure, yes, it's time to wind it all down. And had enough support to put it into keep power. Yes, okay, democracy. Yes, majority of people are agreeable. Yes, let's go ahead and live this thing out, but let's not make any more of this mess. Would it be legitimate to go beyond sterilization and start forcing abortions? Well, I don't even, so this makes not terribly a bunch of sense. Would it be legitimate to go beyond sterilization and start forcing abortions? Well, I mean, if you did sterilization, you wouldn't have to force abortions. Duh. And then execute people who get pregnant after they've been sterilized and forced to have an abortion. Both women and men as co-perpetrators. I think clearly if a majority of people are concerned with this subject, there's going to be some dialogue about human responsibilities, and you know, but there's you know, the idea that rewards and punishments have to be in the form of $10 billion inheritance or execution. Apparently that's how you think the world works. You either give them $10 billion for doing nothing, or you execute them. So yeah, I'm saying there's probably a solution somewhere in between. Doesn't have to be one of those idiotic solutions. Yeah. So I'm not going to really dignify that question with an answer, because I don't think any of that's going to be necessary. A few accidents happen, it's okay. They're just going to have to live with the fact that when it comes time to finish things off, they're going to have to get finished off also. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, if everybody's agreeable to the contract, and you're going to fulfill the contract, and you've put in place the inevitable doomsday mechanism, and they can't get to it and turn it off, then so what? They're going to have to live with the fact that, well, yeah, my parents were assholes and made me so I could live here for 30 years and get blown up by a nuclear bomb. But, that'll be the game. Alright. I mean, everything, you can create systems that are relatively indestructible, and you can create systems that are completely destructible. We see it on the internet all the time. There's some places that get hacked because their system sucks, and some places don't get hacked because their system is secure. There's bridges that last 100 years, 200 years, and there's bridges that last 4 years. You can engineer things right, and you can engineer things wrong. I'm not going to give you a detailed plan on exactly the formation of the democratic process that will lead to inevitable law, and the fact that you'll have some security mechanisms put in place so that the vote can't go the other way, because the only people existing on Earth are people who would vote against it. Obviously. You'd have to have a security against that, I suppose. Is it the fact of existence or a fact of suffering that is primary to the argument of ethylism? Is it the fact of existence or the fact of suffering? Well, frankly, I don't know how you... If there's no suffering, then there's no fact that's relevant. So obviously existence in some non-suffering form, I could not care less. I don't care if there's planets and moons and galaxies and all that stuff. I care if they manifest into silly competitive organisms that are eating each other's vital parts in unpleasant ways and such. So yeah, I don't like this question. Yeah, I will be asking a question sort of in those lines, in the sense that what's the nature of existence? I mean, as much as we'd like to say that nothing can't be perfect, it's sort of a perfect nothing. And if you're going to try to improve the nothing by creating joy or happiness, isn't the liability of that is that you've automatically created the negative potential first? And is it also maybe a fact that you really can't create the joy without creating knowledge of the negative experience of it? It may well be a psychological requirement that you can't manifest a sense of joy unless you first manifest the sense of not good. Alright, are children justified in taking revenge on parents for the crime of their procreation? Well, I don't think revenge is ever justified, so that's kind of a silly... it's not silly because humans are full of those kind of emotions, but I'm just saying, you're supposed to be making intelligent arguments here, and this is like the premise of it, your question has built into it a grotesque stupidity. So you could have moderated your language and said, are children justified in seeking punitive reparations or something on parents for the crime of their procreation? And in some sense I would argue that children who in some sense it might make some logical sense to have some sort of reward and punishment tied to your children. So in the sense that if your children are a menace to society, you pay a price, a financial price, or a sacrifice of a portion of your life to public service or something for the fact that you raised a moron or an idiot or a menace. And likewise for all of those kind of circumstances. And I would say the reverse would be true, that if your child turns into somebody who feels victimized and abused by the facts of this aggressive act of creation, that they should be allowed some right to express their disfavor with the individuals responsible most directly for their circumstance. Revenge, like what? Kick them in the nuts? No, I don't think that's appropriate. Alright, question 4. Hypothetically, if you were Lucifer and you killed God and took his powers and you had the ability to make the universe into heaven without suffering, well, again, heaven is a silly conceptual idea. At least the Christian heaven is an undescribed place where you just walk around and admire the rubies. The Muslim heaven, the Islamic heaven, is apparently some kind of place where you go have sex with a bunch of virgins provided to you. I don't know where they come from, though, so I'd feel a little bit uncomfortable about enjoying my virgins that were somehow provided to me. I mean, I don't know the mechanism of their provision. Do they have any choice in the matter? As I certainly don't. If heaven is a place where you go rape women, well, that's not much of a heaven. So that all doesn't make much sense, does it? No, it's really, you can't just say the word heaven again in a serious conversation with people who have spent more than 10 minutes thinking about life and its meaning. The word heaven is a really messy word because it just doesn't have any definition. Alright, a universe into heaven without suffering and death, etc., are to completely eliminate everything. Well, there you go. So, I mean, if you can give me some diagram of what this heaven would be in terms of a constructive thing, like if it was a easy bake oven, just full of easy bake ovens, well, then I'd say, okay, heaven's okay. So I can think of a lot of robotic machine heaven and say, okay, go ahead and make that. But this idea of putting sentient creatures in it and calling it heaven, yeah, I just don't see the practicality of it. A cat in perpetual sleep, maybe that's cool. So if you have just a bunch of cats sleeping on comfy pillows and they never wake up, that might be a good heaven. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty hard to describe what this heaven's going to be, so fuck it. Etc. are to completely eliminate everything, including yourself, and simply making a universe of lasting vacuum, which is the moral choice for this mystical being. Well, let's say if I was a Lucifer and I did have these godly powers, I certainly would eliminate everything, but I'd be, if I really had to eliminate myself too, the only downside to that is I might, since I'm a godlike entity, I might like to pursue the truth of the universe itself and how it is actually created and why, and the mechanism, just to be sure I wasn't letting go of an opportunity to unplug a more vicious computer. I mean, unplugging this crappy one on Earth, that's a good ambition. But if there are nastier computers out there to unplug, as a god, I might have the power to go do some unplugging. So I wouldn't want to wipe out the power to unplug the nasty stuff. So that's where that one gets a little tricky. So thank you, though. These are, interesting questions, and clearly elements of them, I think, if rephrased, they get to the heart of things. And yeah. I mean, our dilemma is that this is, unfortunately, the physics, the mechanical universe creates this opportunity for this complexification. And I would argue that we are an extremely, extremely not common, not regular, not likely form or manifestation of the function. And clearly just the fact that human intelligence has only existed for this tiny 10,000, 20,000 year window, and that's it, and that it has every indication of not being able to be truly intelligent, to be, a little intelligence. A little intelligence is a dangerous thing, and that's what we've manage to do the little intelligence things, but not the big intelligent thing. And the big intelligent thing, unfortunately, does have the liability of this recognition of the futility and the redundancy and the perpetual nastiness of the function. The idea that most of the organisms are killed as children, to create the fun of the party. That every party that we're going to, so to speak, is made out of a bunch of skulls and bones that we're walking on every day. So all the fun stuff is made out of the terribly unfun stuff, and the unfun stuff is dead, a lot of it, so we don't hear it complaining because it's dead. And that's a real unfairness to the argument. We have a very skewed view of the argument, because all the people on the other side of the argument, the hey, fuck you, they're all silenced by being dead. And so it gives people a very skewed view of the state of things. And that's one of these things that requires, I think, higher intelligence, is to understand that the victims are, most of them, been silenced, okay, by death. And you should appreciate that and realize that for every speaking victim, hello, there's a whole bunch of dead ones. Anyway, or one's in too much pain to even utter, one's too insane to even compose sentences, that you could understand. Those victims are silenced in a rubber room somewhere, or heavily sedated, and people don't pay any attention to their opinion, even though they can pretty easily surmise what their opinion would be, which is fuck off. It's just, why didn't you just leave things alone? Anyway, okay, so I think this is enough for this video. So appreciate the response. I have made one of these little toolbar-y things, but I don't have a link to give you yet. Well, it is on the all page, whatever the all page is. It's this page here. So I did add it there. So I took Vlogger down for temporarily. But anyway, I will provide links here and there to it eventually. So I'll put the link to the all pages in the description. It should be. It's in every video. So anyway, but eventually you can just open it on any, I mean, that's the whole thing. See, I have it opened on this blog page. See, I can just open it anywhere. I can close it and pop it back on any page and blah, 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 blah. So it's quite functional, and, well, I don't know if it's functional. It could be in the future be functional. But anyway, it has a list of all the videos. So all the videos are on there. So far, most of them anyway. I didn't put all of Mr. Plant's videos, so there's just a link to Mr. Plant, because he has a bunch of 10-minute videos, and it'll just be a little bit inefficient, less than perfectly efficient, to include a bunch of those videos as links, as direct links. So I linked to his channel instead. But anyway, gotta fix that. Yeah, it keeps posting. Yeah, I thought I had posted the good version, but I guess I thought I did a redo of the good version, but apparently not. So anyway, even the alarm clock isn't the modern alarm clock, new and improved one. All right. Well, anyway, so I probably should have to redo it correctly, modify it, or something. Anyway, we'll get to that eventually, probably, maybe. Possibly. Anyway, till next time. Such.